Hello everyone, my name is Jesse with Core Concept and welcome back to the Rollout Tutorials. Today's video we're going to be talking about how to add new crew types. So we're finally going to go ahead and add our cyborg crew member that can make use of all of these research entries and items we've created. All two of them thus far. I've gone ahead and created the basic cyborg at this point. All that you do, crew types, new crew type, you enter the identifier, and I've selected the crew icon. That's nothing new at this point, so we're going to start skipping those things that we've done every single video thus far, and we're going to start going through what is new and specific to this crew member type. So let's dive right in. First thing you're going to see after crew icon is your Lua script. You can use this script to create custom functionality for the crew member. An example of this is when you get a scientist crew member to level 4 or higher in the base game, they start healing other idle crew members near them while they are idle. That is done via this Lua script here. You can pretty much do anything that the Lua script allows. You can reference the API for that specific functionality, and if there's interest moving forward, a specific tutorial can be created for that. Moving on, you are going to need your normal crew sprite. Now this is going to get into kind of the first animated sprites that we're looking at here in terms of how actors are rendered. And crew members are some of the most complicated ones because they use multi-state and multi-layer. So we're just going to start with these first two. They are part of the same layer. So we are just going to go and grab our assets. Now I've already created these, but you will have to create them obviously. So we're just going to pick normal and we're going to pick recolor. And basically what's going to happen here is in the game it's going to draw the normal crew sprite and then it's going to draw the recolor crew sprite over top of that. Recolor is technically optional, and what it allows you to do is have parts of the crew member that are able to be recolored to a variety of skin colors that the mod supports, and it just kind of allows it to be randomized, and it gives some diversity and randomness to how the crew looks. Then you can optionally as well have a carrying crew sprite and a carrying recolor crew sprite. This is the same kind of thing. It uses multi-layer, but it changes the way the artwork looks for the different state, which is that they're carrying something. Now, a few important things that you're going to have to know is you are going to have to set your pivot point to 0.50. What this is going to do is it's going to cause the pivot point of the sprite to be at the bottom of it. So once you've set your pivot point and you have your sprites in here, one thing you're just going to have to be aware of is how these sprites are rendered, and they have to be in the order of down, left, right, up. Has to happen. But one thing to note is that you can have multiple frames of animation side by side, and you can specify a looping animation for down, looping animation for left, right, and up. But you cannot have more than these 4 rows for a crew member because Rollout is expecting it to be in that specific format. So just keep that in mind, but you can animate out to the side and Rollout will be aware of that. Now when you specify that all of these are animated, you can say how many rows and columns. So rows has to be 4. Now in our case columns are 1, but if you had an animation you could specify more columns and it would loop through the animation for you. We also have a frame delay. We're gonna just leave that at 0 because that, for a single frame, it doesn't matter. And pixels per unit, this is how big one single sprite is. Moving on to some of the other properties, you can set the maximum hit points, speed, attack range, damage, and attack rate. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make cyborgs a little bit weaker. We're gonna make them a little bit slower. They won't have much attack range, damage. They'll actually have a pretty slow attack rate, but they will actually be able to get better than any other crew member at these things using various cybernetic enhancements. The final required parameter is an attack effect, and I'm just borrowing an effect from the base game. It's a standard pistol shot. We are going to create our own effect later on. But for now, this is good enough. Target effect and projectile, again, we're going to get into that a little bit later when we start specifying projectiles themselves. Gather modifier, build modifier, and research modifier are how efficient they are at some of the core tasks within the game. So if they're gathering, they're only going to be half as effective. In this case, I'm actually going to raise this to 0.75 because the baseline for all units is 1, and then if you want to make them better at something, you can actually raise it. Again, going back to the example of the scientist, their gather and build modifiers are 1, their research is 1.7. XP on kill, gather, build, research, this is how they go about leveling up. So we're going to make cyborgs fighters and researchers. That's what they're going to do. And property keys, you can add special properties to these crew members. And because of this, you can actually restrict what they can do. So we've added cybernetic enabled as a property key. And if you remember from the previous tutorial, when we went equipable, there were required property keys. So I've gone ahead and added that here, which means that only crew member types with this property key can equip this item. And now our cyborgs have that property key. There are sounds down here, but we're going to cover them in a later tutorial because it gets into using the DevTools databases, and that's just not in the scope of this tutorial. So that's the basics of adding new crew types. There are some templates in the DevTools folder. They are in XCF format, so you will need GIMP or something equivalent to use them, but they should also add some guidance on how to create these sprites in general. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial video.